So now our space adventure class is a little more filled out. We have some planets that we can visit in our planetary system that we've created. At this point, we can start filling out some of those to-dos we had written earlier. So the first thing we want to do is we are going to allow the user to pick the name of the planet they want to go to. So let's go ahead down to our determine destination function, and we're going to implement this to-do that's going to allow the user to select a planet to visit. So let's go ahead and get rid of the code in this part of the else if statement and rewrite it to create a function that's going to select which planet we're going to go to. So the first thing I'm going to do is say let planet name equals response to prompt, and the prompt is going to be okay, name the planet you would like to visit. And again, it's going to use our response to prompt function that's up here to return a string from the user. And then we are going to visit planet name. And we should get an error because we have not created a function called visit yet. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'll move it down here and I'll make it a private function visit, and it's going to take a string planet name as a parameter. My error goes away, but now I have to actually implement this function. So how am I going to implement so that I find out which planet the person wants to go to and then prints out the planet name and that description? Well, one way I could do it is to write a whole series of if-else statements. I could say if planet name equals Mercury, print that. Else if planet name equals Venus, else if, and so on and so on. But that's really a lot of wasted code. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use a for loop. And we've seen for loops in Python. Swift implements them a little bit differently. So let's go ahead and try to do that. So we start with, well, let's put it in a print statement first. Print traveling to, and then our planet name. Let's put in a couple ellipses there. Okay, so I'll write for, and then in a Swift for loop, we have to initialize a counter variable. So we're going to put var, because it's going to vary, and I'm just going to let I equal my counter. And it's going to start off at 0. So we're saying for I equals 0. And 0 is going to be the first element in my array. And we're going to keep going. The next statement is the conditional. When is it going to stop? As long as I is less than planetary system dot planets dot count. And then I'm going to put another semicolon. So again, start at 0, keep running as long as it is less than the number of planets in the array, and then every time through, we're going to increment I. And I++ means add 1 to I. And then we're going to put a curly brace, and then we're going to say let the planet equal planetary system dot planets, and then we're going to use the array subscripting I. So this is going to take the ith item in the array, so it's going to start out being 0. So it's going to pick the 0 at the first element in the array and assign it to this constant planet. And then we're going to say if planet name, and again planet name is the name passed to us from the user, equals planet dot name, because again it's a property of the planet that we get back here. Then print, arrived at planet dot name, And then I'm going to print out planet.description. Got an error in here somewhere. Oh, need another parentheses. There, now I fixed all the punctuation, all the errors go away, and I have a for loop. Let's look at exactly what this is doing again. So again, this function visit is getting a planet name as a string. And again, that's the same input that the user typed in. This for loop goes through each planet in the array. Remember, planets each have two properties. They have a name and a description. So again, the planets that it's returning is an object. So I'm going to go through and let planet equal the first item in the array. And I'm going to check the name to see if the name is the same as what was typed in by the user. If it is, it's going to print out the planet name and the planet description. If it's not, it's going to go through the next planet in the array, so I will equal 1, and do the same check. And it'll eventually keep going through until it finds a match for the planet name. And then hopefully you're thinking, well, what happens if it doesn't find that planet name? And we'll look at that soon. So again, this is nicer than writing an if-else statement, but it's still a lot of code. And luckily, Swift actually has an easier way to iterate or go through each item in an array, and that's the for in. So I'm actually going to erase my for loop, and I'm going to replace it with for planet in planetary system dot planets. So this syntax says for planet, and again, this is just a variable that I'm using here, and it's going to go through each planet in this planet's array. So the first time it'll be the first planet, second time it'll be the second planet, and this variable will be assigned to each planet each time through. So I can say if planet name, which is going to be kind of the same part, equals planet, dot name. And again, I'll write that same print statement. Print arrived at planet dot name. Planet dot description. So you can see this loop syntax is much nicer than the iterating one by one by one. This will do the exact same thing. It'll go through each planet in this array one at a time, and it's checking to see if the name that the user passed is the same as the name of the planet, the first planet in the array. If it is, it prints out the name and the description. If not, it keeps iterating through. Let's go ahead and run this to see if it works. I'm going to hit Shift Command C to get to the console. I'll type in my name. I'll hit no because I don't want to randomly pick it. Let's go to Mercury. And it says arrived at Mercury. Let's try it one more time with let's try running it one more time to make sure it's going to go through the whole loop because that was just the first one. No, and how about Neptune? And there we go. So we see that this for loop works great. So now we've gotten rid of one of our to-dos. We have it, our program now, if the user hits no, they want to name the planet, we've implemented that functionality. So we still have a couple of more to-dos to get rid of, and we'll do that in upcoming lessons.